I'm Kate Seeley, Senior Vice President of the Middle East Institute, and I'd like to welcome you to today's discussion about the work and role of Syrian media activists and media organizations in the midst of Syria's devastating civil war. Today we're going to hear from three media activists who are working to create an environment that encourages reporting and the sharing of information and stories in ways that are gender equal and reflect the interests and the needs of Syrian media consumers. All three of our guests, Rula Asad, Milia, Eidmouni, and Caroline Ayoub, are involved with organizations that emphasize the value of an engaged, inclusive media in the building of a rich civil society. And they understand profoundly the critical link between a free and empowered media and its ability to shape a more democratic future Syria. I'll tell you a little bit more about each one of them in detail, but I just want to say now what an honor it is to have them here with us at MEI in Washington to share their stories. They're here thanks to a grant from the Asfari Foundation based in London. The Asfari Foundation, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, has done tremendous work to support Syrian students and the growth of a Syrian civil society inside and outside of the country during these past 5 years. And our MEI program works with Asfari on a program that seeks to inform Washington about the important role that Syrian civil society continues to play inside and outside of the country. This role has been largely overshadowed by the ISIS story and all of the horror stories coming out of Syria, but it is so critical to continue to emphasize the fact that there are tens and tens of thousands of Syrians working inside the country and outside, not only to provide medical care and education, but also to encourage local governance and an understanding of conflict resolution and understanding of the importance of freedom of expression and a strong journalistic community. So this is the amazing work that civil society is doing, and this is what our three activists have been doing. And we brought them here to plug them into the international NGO community, to introduce them to government officials and officials on Capitol Hill, so that they can tell their stories, they can exchange information, they can build connections and contacts. And I just want to say Syrian civil society is doing such incredible work today. It is so little reported. We all need to do our best to support this sector, which really is critical for the future of Syria. So after this event, I hope everyone in this room will become more engaged, not only get to know our wonderful guests, but also plug into all the organizations like theirs that are working in these civil society sectors. So many thanks to the Asfari Foundation, many thanks to our participants for taking time out from their busy schedule to join us. Caroline Ayoub is a co-founder and project manager of Syria Radio, an independent, nonprofit, grassroots online broadcaster. And through various shows, including a very popular cooking show, it works with Syrians to promote civil society, to promote freedom of expression, and to promote women's empowerment. In 2012, Caroline was arrested in Damascus for her nonviolent activism against the regime. She fled the country after being released, and she's now in France, where she has just gotten a master's in human rights. Rula Asad, to my right, and Milia Eidmouni are the founders of the Syrian Female Journalists Network. It's a nonprofit initiative that trains Syrian female reporters and promotes their role in the region's media. They run a network of some 73 journalists, both inside and outside Syria, whose stories have helped raise awareness about the inspiring role that Syrian women continue to play in the revolution, stories that we so rarely hear. And I hope today that we'll get to hear some of those stories, if not in their presentations, at least in my Q&A, because I want to pull them out and ask them, what are the stories that we need to be covering? Rula worked as a journalist, having studied journalism at Damascus University. Milia did media studies at Damascus University. She's now living in Jordan, and Rula is in the Netherlands. Of course, it's impossible to be in Damascus or in Syria today if you're a critic of the regime. They'll each talk about their work and the situation inside Syria as it relates to their work, and then I'll ask a few questions, and then we'll open to the floor. We have about till 1:40 for our session. So thank you all for joining us today. And please stick around and do get to know our guests afterwards. And I'd like to invite Caroline to come join us. Thank you all.
Okay. So hello, everybody. Thanks for being here today. My name is Caroline Ayoub. I'm the co-founder and the project manager of Radio Soriali. This whole change taking place in Syria is about the voice of people. It started with the voice of people screaming in the street, asking for their right, for their dignity, for freedom of expression. The voice was our inspiration, and it's the goal at the same time. Our motivation was to establish a platform that gather all people together, all Syrians together, bring them, regardless their background, their religious beliefs, everything, and gather them in one platform to express themselves. Because we really thought, it was like back then in 2012, we thought that all media institutions had played like very political propaganda and war promoting role at that time in 2012. And we think that Syrians today are living the result of this propaganda that was played back then. So we were a group of Syrian women and men. We came together from different walks of life, different backgrounds. We all put our common experience together, and we have created Soriali. We wanted to be a safe space to promote the idea of representative home, to bring hope and positivity to the present and to the future, and to give heed to everyone around us, making them feel important, to celebrate and debate the various identities we have, and to team up with them to give voices to the voiceless. So Soriali is a new, free, independent Syrian-run medium whose main goals are community development and responsible citizenship. We use social media as one of our essential communication channels to build collaborative and interactive media content. Little by little since then, we have made big steps, understanding the needs of those whom we could reach, creating diversified multimedia content to match their needs, including many public awareness advocacy campaigns, hundreds of viral artworks and videos, in addition to more than 3,000 radio shows and podcasts, of course, addressing day-to-day issues facing Syrians everywhere. Today, we have 450,000 followers on social media. We have 75,000 visitors on our platform, SoundCloud, YouTube, and mobile application on monthly basis. We have 1.5 million played back on SoundCloud, which is very important for us during the past 3.5 years. The main tools we use today emerged from the spirit of our team's member, which we consider as our asset. They're all diverse, creative, and heavily associated with the culture that surrounded us back in Syria and today in the newly acquired culture. Because today we have most of the team is refugees in other countries. When we started, we had 11 persons in Syria. Today we have only 3 persons inside Syria because the rest of the team had to leave. So our programming is heavily influenced by socio-cultural messaging, which gets to the people right away, without making them feel the barrier between the message and their subconscious. The programs we do today in Soriali varies between drama series, creative storytelling, talk shows, edutainment shows, socio-political and socio-cultural public awareness, political debates, discussions, and open space for all opinions. This is brief of our 3.5 years story till today.
Tell us about some of the most popular shows on Soriali.
Talk
a little bit about some of the most popular ones and the kind of impacts you think they've had.
Yeah. One of our most popular show was Fattoush. It was like a cooking show, but the packaging was a cooking show, but it was much deeper than this. It was about the culture of each area and province in Syria, each community. It was about the Kurdish, the Christian, the Alawite, the Armenian, the people from the south, from the west, all over Syria, because we really believe that what gathers people together should be highlighted. So food is something really important in our culture, and we brought it as programming, and we had huge success all over the world, either in playback or in narrowcasting. Narrowcasting means people were downloading the shows and were rebroadcasting it for a small group and discussing it, or making the recipe and bringing it to each other and trying different recipes from different areas. So that one was really powerful. So this is why we finished 101 episodes.
Wow.
Because we had people inside Syria. Because for each episode we had to interview 4 or 5 ladies from each area, because you don't have this information online. It's, I don't know how we say it. It's like people, they know it. It's the tradition in their village or in their area. So you need to get the information directly from the people. Otherwise, it will disappear. So we wanted to preserve this heritage, and we transform it into this cooking show. And this Ramadan, we said we will continue in a different way. We're going to use the concept of cooking and food. And we partnered with another initiative on Facebook called Matbakh Ghirbe. It's a group of Syrians who they created a group on Facebook. They wanted to ask each other what kind of ingredients they need to replace if they're in Germany, in Holland, if they can't find the one that we used to find in Syria. So we partnered with them. We gathered 30 stories of 30 Syrian persons from different backgrounds. 30 stories related to one dish they used to have back in Syria, and we produced 2 minutes video about the recipe and their memories with this recipe. And it was like, so far we're having very good feedback on it.
And what's the importance of shows like this to a country that's people who are so displaced, and both internally and externally? And talk a little bit about the motivation for shows like this and their impact.
We think fear is a major issue now in Syria, fear and trust. And in order to gap this fear and trust, you need to introduce people to each other. When we know more about each other's background and culture, and we highlight on our similarities, when you see that, for example, again, you have the same more or less kind of recipe where the Kurds, when they cook it, they call it that name, but in Dar'a they have another name for the same dish. So we really highlighting the differences Syrians have. It bridged the gaps we're having today.
And how, I mean, you know that because of the response you've been getting from listeners, that how are they responding to these shows that are showing the differences but also the similarities between different religions and ethnic groups? How are you learning of that?
Basically, the main feedback we're getting is through social media, through Facebook mainly, a little less through Twitter. We're interacting so much with our audience through the social media. We think this is the full-time job. We have community managers who deals with the audience on hourly basis throughout the 24 hours, because our team is based actually in 13 countries, because we don't operate in one single country. We can't afford that. So people are spread all over the world, like all Syrians now. And we have our virtual office, which is Skype. And so we take care of our social networks on hourly basis, let's say. And we do interact with people because we think this is the change that we should make. Before we had the one-way information coming from the regime state media or, other media. Now we really think that it's two-way communication. It's not one-way communication anymore. So that's why we think social media is very important for us. It's a tool that we use all the time.
That's wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about you called them communication managers, the people who are the community managers.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about just the infrastructure, how it works. You said you're dispersed in 13 countries. Do you have people inside Syria still, participating on shows or providing information? Talk about the structure and also the communication between those inside and outside in terms of information.
Yeah, of course, the people inside Syria, they don't, obviously everyone knows, they don't use their names. They use different names, different emails, different Skype ID, different everything. We don't communicate with them through mobile phones because it's not secure 100%, so we communicate with them only via Skype or or Google Documents. We use Google Documents, shared documents a lot because this is how we can work together if we're working on the content or something like this. For the people outside Syria, we use, of course, Skype, Google Hangouts. We use WhatsApp group now because now we really instant replies for certain things. So this is on WhatsApp group, people can, community manager can communicate with producer if he doesn't have the answer now to reply to one of, of our listener or something like this. But we really have people dedicated for Twitter. We have people dedicated for Facebook that can take care of all people all the time.
Amazing. Yes. Such an interesting infrastructure. What about issues related to the trauma that this war has caused? Do you have any shows dealing with trauma and healing and
in a direct way, it's not doable. But you can do it in an indirect way because giving anything positive for people today is trauma healing, right. Because we're fed up as a Syrian, we're fed up like from the regular news, counting dead people, counting bombardment, counting how many one dead. It's helping us getting more and more hopeless. So whenever you're giving something positive, wherever you're humanizing what's going on, wherever you're giving it in a different way, people are really appreciating this. And we hear that a lot, you're giving us hope. I didn't know I would spend this 10 minutes listening to something that would give me hope, that will enable me to think in a different way or something. So actually this is our motivation because we keep hearing this. We keep getting this feedback, which is, when we started, we didn't thought that we're going to have this huge feedback on the work we wanted to do. But today, this is the fuel we're getting on a daily basis in order to continue. The positive feedback we're getting from people.
As you said, they're hungry for something other than news about the war.
Yes.
And besides cooking, then what are the other most sort of popular shows or programs that...
We're strong at, storytelling. Yeah, we have a very famous program called Hakawati Suryali. The concept of Hakawati is very famous in Syria and in Damascus in particular. The storyteller who gather people in the evening in Ramadan to tell them traditional stories. So we updated this concept and we had our version of storyteller called Hakawati Suryali. He gathered current story from Syria because we think we should document the history we're living in now, because otherwise it will be gone, because we all know the reasons. So we gather the stories from the people themselves, and we transfer them into storytelling form, and we tell the story. This is how we document it, and this is how we take the voice of people and we take it into another platform. And we have another partnership with the Syrian female journalist called Jadail. Actually, that was a project funded from IWPR, and it was training for female journalists to write their stories. And that program was done. So then we said we're going to take those stories and we're going to transfer them into stories, and we're going to tell them to people because it's written. If you don't read it, it's gone. So we wanted to give it another life, give it another chance, and those are mainly women's stories who struggled either in the regime-controlled area or Daesh-controlled area, like stories you would never ever see in the media.
Like, give us an example of one great story, if you can remember.
I will
give like later.
Okay.
Yeah, because Milia is the storyteller for Jadai. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, and finally, last question. Just talk a little bit about the gender issue, because I know it's very important to all of the participants here today. I know that you're working to push for gender equality through your program. So talk a little bit about how you're doing that and why it's so important right now.
It's we said from day one internally when we co-founded the radio that we wanted to practice what we preach. So we decided to have 50% women representation internally. And this is how we're living today. We have 50% of our team. We're 27 today, 14 women out of them. Senior positions, of course, and decision makers. And yeah, this is how we can transform the ideas we want to. We can't go online and say, yes, we want to have 50% women representation. It doesn't work like this. We should live it first, then we can export the idea to others.
Has there been any pushback or any complaints, or people embracing this notion of 50-50?
You know, maybe at the beginning there was, because we had other media projects in terms of training, because we had many experts with us. So it was a bit strange that getting that training from women at the beginning, but later on it was, you know, they're living with it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Rula Asad, and not Asad, not anything else. It's Asad. And I'm happy to be with you today, and I want to invite all of you. When you hear civil society in Syria, like to believe in it, and you are showing up today, it's meaning that you care about us. And thank you for coming today, because it's encouraging us to continue work from where we are working, which is a very, very hard situation. But it doesn't mean it is hard situation, there is no civil society. There is civil society. Radio Surreal is one of the evidence. Syrian Female Journalists Network, it's one of the evidence. The journalists who killed in Deir ez-Zor and even in Kafrindal just last week, it's another evidence. There is a civil society. There is a journalist working not only in a liberated area, but also under the very brutal occupation, IS and Jabhat al-Nusra, and a lot of other story from the regime, control area. There is civil society who are fighting for dignity till this moment, for freedom and for a democracy. Our story as Syrian Female Journalists Network, it's one of many, many examples of how the civil society organization till this moment working, how we create our platform, how people believe in us. So it's, of course, it's a start, like there is an inspiration of the German Women Journalist Bund, like League, and then we heard about it. I was invited and said, wow, okay, so Germans, female journalists, they are really struggling to get more represented in the media. So it's not only our issue. And I believe if we are talking about the US context now, about journalism, female journalists, we will find some common ground to talk about. But it's not only about women and men. It's about the society. We are not the women who are fighting for gender equality and men, they are in arrest till we are achieving the equality, and then, okay, we have in a justice society. This is our idea and behind of the Syrian Female Journalists Network. It's not implementing project, it's an idea. Actually, the start point for us, we look to the conflict not as a very negative event, but it's a very positive event. Why? Because in the conflicts, people, they are much more open. Everything is new. They want to try everything. And we thought if we can manage ourselves to start right, probably we can achieve something for the future. And when you meet any one of these civil society organizations, please do think with them for the future. It's not about right now, it's not about the past. Because we know, like, we don't control the reality now, the moments. So at least we can do something in advance for the next generation. In the network, we work in 3-4 levels. We do build the capacity of journalists, not only female. We said, like, we have to empower the female journalists. And they said, if we are working women to women, we are not really talking to men, and sometimes they are the decision makers, and then we are creating our people and working on our people, and then we are not achieving anything. And then we said we have to change our scope of focus, and we are not working on women's rights, but we are fighting for gender justice. And gender justice for us, it's gender justice for Syrian society, not only for us as a network, as a journalist. And we believe media, it's one of the channels of the medium, like we talk to people. And this is what the conflict, what you probably name it, civil war, opened the door for all these small communities, for small villages to have their own platform. People, they stand and say, we have our newspaper and we want to report our story. We don't want anyone come to us and report it. And other citizens, they believe in it, this is the positive way, like, and then we can, as a network, reach this local media and then work with them towards gender justice, women's rights, and even today we are talking about LGBT rights. Still slowly moving, but at least we can talk about it. So this is our dream, to talk about everything, anything in the media freely. And this is civil society organization. And the media is a part of this civil society organization doing this. This is the capacity building is very, very important for us. Some people, they said, oh, people in the Middle East, they love training. Actually, training for us is exhausting because a lot of logistic seeking actually fund for training. Seeking, it's not only asking. So what we say, it's first we have to build the trust among each other because people who lived all their lives in Damascus, like me, and never been here, how people live in Deir ez-Zor, for example. And today there is a chance to meet all people from all over Syria, whether in Taus, part of Turkey, in Lebanon, in Jordan, even in Europe, even in a part here in Washington, D.C. And then I mean, forcing to leave the country, it's something very hard, but there is a positive way to look to it. It's like meeting other people you'll never meet if you stay in your country, in your city where you live, and where you feel very secure and don't want to change. So it's, again, start point. It's a positive. This is conflict. It's very positive for us. We have to use it now. Probably there is no doubt, like all this blood and fighting and interfering and several actors, and it's very complicated. No one can understand us. No, we can explain our situation, but still we have to think about future. And this is what women actually do. Not only in the term of media, but also if you probably heard about Geneva, for example. There is negotiation, but there is a group of women. They all the time in front of the building of UN, demonstrating for more representing women for the two parties, whether it's in the government, but of course we're focusing on the oppositional part. Like we want to have more women on the table. And then they create initiative, a Syrian Women Initiative for Democracy and Peace, and then there's advisory board for the Mistura team, which is still a very good initiative, but we are out of the main event, we are side event. So, I mean, we do our homework, but we still need other partners to work with us to do their homework and to be on the table in the sense of political participation. We do other people and friends to work with us, for example, in the sense of freedom of expression, for example, in Turkey, to us as a Syrian, in Lebanon, in Jordan. So if anyone comes to me and says, we can't do anything in Syria, of course, you can't, but there is another, channels to push for much more positive practices to support. The second level, we are working on it in the Syrian Female Journalists Network. We are advocate for freedom of expression, for women's rights, for gender justice. But we don't do it just only with the media houses and outlets. We are trying to build a bridge between the media itself, this new emerging media, Syrian emerging media, and civil society organization and the Syrian women movement, because there is no trust. And then if there is an organization like us, there is a media like Suriali, for example, fighting for inclusive media, for everyone has a space to express her or herself, and then we build the trust. And then the media itself has another rule. It's not only covering the issue, not covering behind. We are not only behind what's happening on the ground. We are really building a new future. So the media, it's not all. When anyone comes to you and says, we have a Syrian local media, don't think about the traditional media, because the one who is building this media, they are citizens. They were in the street demonstrating against Asad, then forced to leave, and then they start to have their own Facebook page, and they said, no, we have to do more, and then they did. They have a newspaper, radios, and magazine, for example, today. And they don't look to themselves as professionals, but they are professionals today because they start in practicing directly. So it's another type of media. It's a very community media. It's a media believing in a case, in a change, in a role for the future. And we believe as well, like it's not only to empowering women to have much more representing in the media or increasing the number of female journalists, but it's really changing the mentality, challenging the culture itself. And this is what many other local partners, they really do when we are working together. In the third level, we are working in the campaigns, and there one where we work with other partners. And we find out people, they believe in the three core demand of the revolution: still dignity, still freedom, and still democracy. Recently, we start to work in the research. It's our first research that we work on it. And it's about how this emerging media represent women, but also what is the situation of female journalists inside those media. Actually, I will share with you something I believe it's similar to what the media, even in USA, they already did. What's the image of the women? For example, in the beginning of revolution, even the Western media, they try to show women as they are part of the working power. They try to show them as the founder of organization. They are actually. They are member of local council. They are artists. They are lawyers, journalists, director, activists. They are free. They are even nurses, but in a way like they are support. It's not the backwards. It's not a stereotyping of the work that women do, but they are doing nursing in a field hospital, for example. And it was very, very interesting. Approach, I mean, interesting image how nursing now in this context, it's not a stereotyping what women they can do. But after a while, they become in the same media who start to talk about women in this category, they are becoming victim of regime or even victim of the conflict or even subject to poverty, early marriage, and displacement. They are raped when the story comes from refugee camp. And they are also raped in all the centers in the area where the regime, they are controlled. There is harassment, there is violence against women in those centers as well. They are refugee. This is massively now. The Syrian woman is the one who is refugee. I am not refugee myself, but I always consider as a refugee. Are you Syrian? Yes. Are you refugee? No. It's very strange because I just left Syria after 2011. So. And they don't put it in a neutral context. It's like you are refugees, you are the one. Oh, sorry, we are sorry. No, you are sorry. Everyone have to be sorry, but not in. I mean, victimizing women. It's something annoying, and then they become unable. They are not unable to do political work, and the evidence they are, because if we look to the Women Initiative right now today, and Milia will talk about this later. It's it's massive. I mean, they are working in building peace right now. There is several women organizations. They are directly to Geneva, to AU, to Washington to say you have to force the people who are sitting on the table to include us, because we are, as the woman who is talking, they are the political leaders, and they have all the expert, the history to do so. They are a subject of course, poverty I've already mentioned. They are weak, they are sad, and of course, all of you have seen the image of a Syrian woman with a sad face or even covering the face, and then having a hijab, and then having a child in her hand. I mean, this is the image all over the world about Syrian, and they are refugee, of course, should be, otherwise it's not Syrian. So it's annoying and creating and recreating this image, because it's not only the reality, it is part of the reality. But when we're focusing on such image, and then we are killing any other initiative that they are trying to change the reality and to make the change in the future. But there are some practices, for example, not only from the local media, but it's also noticed from the regional and Western media. They are active in work life, but only because of a man's absence. And this is what happened, for example, story from refugee camp. Oh, there is a great initiative for a woman who is cooking and selling, and she is independent, and she has her own income. Oh, but the man is killed or arrested or disappeared. So it's not, it's linking of the man absence. And then they are hero if they are in the movie. And even if they are in the movie, she looks like a weak person. She is a widow, and she is helpless. And then she is subjected to early marriage. The issue here, it's not the ability to raise a family. It's like to raise a family, but not it's her health risk. So it's even, they want to do something good, and then they finish it in a very bad way. So this is the media trying to creating a certain stereotype about women, Syrian women. So this is, for example, I'm not telling this findings because I'm saying the Syrian local media, they are very stupid and silly. They don't do a right thing for Syrian women, but it's not only their practices, it's the practice of other international media. But I can, of course, define the local one because they are not studied in a journalism institute or in a journalism college or university. They were citizens, and then they decide to become a journalist. So we can't actually evaluate their work as a professional journalist. But, of course, the challenge here in the media, when I talk about the Syrian local media, the culture itself. We have a male culture, a patriarchal culture, and then even they try to do something because it's a conflict, it's open, people accepting everything, people advocated for women's rights, human rights, of course, but then the culture playing in the background. So it's very, very important to understand this. It's not always like in a negative way. Actually, when the title of this event, it's Female Journalists and Making Change, and we discuss this a lot because we want to really make it very attractive to you as an audience. And then I think we succeed. I have to say this. And showing you here today, you coming, it's really very important because being with us today, it's like encouraging me as a journalist, as executive director of Syrian Female Journalists Network, to continue working, to believe in there is people care, they are in solidarity with us, people they believe there is still civil society working in Syria. And we can talk for days about what kind of initiative, what kind of successful story, actually. You ask for successful story. Three of us, we are a very successful story about women who are living in Syria, forced to leave, and then we weren't like sitting, waiting for magic to back to Syria, but we create another thing to work. We are very flexible as a Syrian, especially the ones who are running organization, initiatives, groups, teams, etc. So I will stop here because I have to stop myself. But I will end with something very probably interesting to you if you are interested in the issue of women. I will invite you to read this report. Actually, this report is about the violation against women in the area of controlled by regime, Assad regime. And we have worked on this report with other 12 women's rights organizations, Syrian women's rights organizations. And 2 weeks ago, I was in Geneva with other two partners. I mean, they were Syrian. You've met probably Selma, some of you. I were with Selma in Geneva, advocating for the gender aspect, gender perspective should be in not only in the media, but also in the reports where they are talking about human rights, for example. There is only paragraph about the violation against women, and usually it's violation, sexual violence, but not, for example, what we face in our daily life as activists, what kind of challenging and freedom of movement. And this report is really reflecting all this issue, and there is a very concrete recommendation, and you know, in the Council of Human Rights will have a meeting in November to evaluate the human rights situation in Syria. So anyway, this here you can read more. You will find the stories. You will find other phase of what Syrian women are challenging, and then you can understand, I mean, better what we are trying to telling today, three of us. So I will stop myself.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will save my questions for Milia and Rula after. Please, Milia.
Hi, and thank you again for coming to this event. Yeah. Already my colleague Rula and Caroline shared their experience working in the media. My role now, like, just to give you like an update or like a general review about like the situation and what Syrian women organizations are doing and the role of Syrian women right now. I'm based in Jordan, working basically with the Syrian refugees in Jordan and in Lebanon. With the escalation of the violence in Syria, Syrian women start taking a big role to be as a change maker and peacemaker in Syria. They take many responsibilities and tasks to break the stereotypes image about Syrian women. They stepping up to make a real change in their society. They start working on small initiatives in local communities, and then they start making big organization and opening community centers at some points, like in Jordan or in Lebanon. Also, we have like partner called Syrian Women for Development. They have community centers inside Syria where they are providing Syrian women not only with the vocational training or like this kind of traditional training for women that international NGOs came and providing for like food production or sewing or handicrafts. They start giving them and providing them with real trainings related to peace building, negotiation, advocating for the role of Syrian women in the peace negotiation and the importance of women in the political participation. Also, like Caroline, she mentioned our project Jadail with Suryali. Jadail, the aim of this project was to make the untold stories or like the stories of change of Syrian women, to make it from the written content to the audio content. One of these stories, her name Hasna. Hasna, she was like a nurse in a field hospital. She tried to provide aid for the injured people during the peaceful demonstration. Hasna, she got arrested by the Syrian regime. Later, they raped her. When they released her from the prison, all the community, they put many pressure on her. So she committed suicide later. And then the aim of this story was, who killed Hasna? Our society or the Syrian regime? The pressure from the society and the male society that she get raped and she bring shame to the to her family. One of our also success stories in the Syrian Female Journalists Network, it's called a project that we produced. Also, it's like a radio project called Muwatinat, it's Citizen. Citizen. These the Muwatinat is we've tried to bring the voices of Syrian women inside Syria. They record their stories, their untold stories also, and their daily life on WhatsApp. And they send it to us, and we produce this. One of these stories I can share it is her name Raifa. Raifa, she's from Idlib, and she tried to collect money to provide Syrian kids with hearing issues. Sorry, with hearing devices, so they can hear the voices of bombing and they can run away from the bombing. So Raifa, she helps many kids and she saved their lives. This is like the main success stories of Syrian women now. In Jordan, like I can share some of the stories of Syrian women in Jordan. Basically, Syrian refugees, they are not allowed to work in Jordan, and it's kind of hard also like to find to work legally. One of Syrian women, they start doing some social enterprise projects, so they can generate income. Also, they can provide skills for other Syrian women. So they build their own network, small network online, where they can like just build their capacity. 70% of the Syrian women right now in Jordan, they have access to this kind of works, and they provide skills, and they are like the breadwinner. So they provide their families with money, because like now 50% of the Syrian refugees in Jordan, they are women and kids. This is like mainly our success stories. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Why don't you come?
Yeah.
Come sit and we'll talk in detail a little bit more about so many of the amazing issues that have been raised in the course of this conversation. And first of all, I just want to recognize Rula's point that out of conflict comes opportunity. And I very much appreciate your perspective that despite the incredible hardships being faced in Syria, what we're seeing is the growth of a free media in a country where there are, 2 newspapers, Tishreen and one other, both controlled by the state. And we're seeing greater gender equality. And this is tremendous progress. But I think we have a room full of people who are very interested in the media landscape, as well as the landscape relating to women's issues. So I'd like to first start with a question about the media sector, and maybe this is a question for Rula and Milia to talk about. What does it look like in opposition-held territories today? What does the media sector look like? Are there radio stations? Are there television stations? Are people producing newspapers? And are these for very specific communities, or are they able to reach large communities and in a way connect Syrians across the country? And what are some of the challenges this media sector is facing right now? I imagine that 4 years ago there was probably more media. I mean, you mentioned, Caroline, earlier that there were many people working for Syria inside Syria. Today there are only 3. So probably the free media sector was more robust just 3 years ago, and today, because of all the pressures on Syria and with so many people leaving, it's been reduced in size. So perhaps you could all speak a little bit about this media sector and the challenges. Shall we start with, thank you.
I will take the first part of the question. And so what's the media right now? Actually, the oppositional media, I mean, the one who is working with those media knows that they are based in a northern part of Syria, southern part of Turkey, and some of them, they have offices in Istanbul. And very few in southern part of Syria and Daraa and Suwaida. And actually, they are a newspaper, they are magazine, and they are radio stations. There is 3 maximum to 5 TV channels. And in the beginning, they were like more than 350 media outlets. But because of, this is one of the challenge, because they start in a different way how the media usually start. It's not a business. It's a group of people decide to have their own platform to express themselves, and the group of people they are around them. Sometimes they are just the neighborhood of a city that they have their own newspaper. And then in 2014, 15, actually the number like now, we can talk about 50 to 80 media who are really continuing their work, but in a very hard, difficult situation, because first we are based, depends on a fund of international organization, not the regional, for example. And then there is some difficulties of getting fund for an organization, because usually the funders, the donors, they are in favor of implementing projects. And this is for media. It's something you do it for a short term, and it's not for a long term. Most of them, they are printing in the one who are the print media. They are printing in Turkey, and they distributing their work. I mean, the magazine and the newspaper in the northern part of Syria, in refugee camp, for example, in Turkey. Few of them they managed to reach people in Lebanon and Jordan. Few of them, very few. We are in Jordan, for example, it's almost closed for the Syrian media. Yeah, and there's a lot of websites, of course, because internet is a free space. Everyone can have their platform, and there is that big number of websites. Actually, they are tackling many different topics, starting from criticizing the opposition to a military group, and because of that, they get later on when they want to go inside the country, or if they have a reporter. The military armed group, they really took the people who are working with the certain media, and then, for example, sometimes they killed them because they are talking in a very bad, critic way. So this is one of the challenge, for example, and they are working, of course, internet, it's our offices, all of us. Some of them, they have really office in Istanbul and Gaziantep, for example, but still not every one of the reporters and people who are working with them, they come to the office. But they managed to have a WhatsApp group, Facebook group, Viber, Skype, all these things that people usually use it for a social communication. It's now for a business communication, if I may say it like this. So we paste on the internet to keep the communication lively, and then to report what we are doing, what we are facing. I'm saying we because I am a journalist as well. So,
people you mentioned.
Yeah, and from different parts, whether they are under the Kurdish, in the Kurdish area, Arab area, and under the control of a regime in the IS control area, it's really very big where they are, the Syrian now, where are the journalists as well.
Well, let me bring Milia to this conversation. How many women journalists are inside Syria in, the liberated or the non-regime held areas? And are they part of your network? And how are they communicating with you? And what sort of stories are they sending you?
In our network, we have around 41 female journalists from out of 73. But the total number of female journalists inside Syria, I don't think we have a concrete number. Especially that some of them they were working in with hidden names or But I would like more to talk about the challenge that they're facing journalists right now, especially inside Syria and outside Syria. The main challenge, first, the lack of safety, both inside Syria, there's no equipment for them, vest or helmets. Also, there's no contract for Syrian journalists who's working inside or outside Syria. So all the time they have insecurity. That we may lose our job or something. Also, the freedom of movement. Now there's more restriction on journalists, especially in host countries like Jordan and Lebanon. So you can't go and travel freely. Also, one of the challenge, the new censorship in rebel areas or the armed groups. So they are censoring all the media outlets or the magazines or newspaper. Also, they are trying to control the content of the radios or these.
Can you give us an example of a program that was recently censored by?
Not program only, just a program. Usually maybe Caroline, she can give us an example about their radio. Also, the Radio Fresh already they closed their radio. Some of the radios, they stole, the armed groups stole their equipment or take control of these equipment.
Yeah. Sure. Caroline,
We used to broadcast in Idlib province and northern Syria. We used to have 2 to 3 hours per day, but we had to stop 2 months ago because, it was all controlled. First, we had to stop certain programming of us because they didn't go along with the people who controlled that area. Then we decided to stop at all because it's really controlled and another form of censorship.
So we're really looking at a blackout on news and information from these areas in that case, because this was the only source of information. Largely
it's not the only source of information, but because they want to control the source of information those people have.
Yeah.
So first we were asked to stop certain programming. First we were asked to stop using certain terms. Then it's become more and more complicated. We said let's give up. We can't take it anymore. It's so complicated. We don't have any common language with those people. So we decided to stop. We shifted a little bit our strategy. We said Syria is not only Syria inside the borders. Now we have 4 million in the neighboring countries. We have, 1 million in Europe. So Syrians are everywhere. Syria is everywhere. So we can talk and keep giving, doing what we're doing for Syrians outside of Syria. So, yeah.
Right, but it's so critical because these stations, these programs, these journalists who are inside Syria, they're our last link to what's happening on the ground. And when people like Khalid al-Issa are killed and stations like these are threatened, the information that's already so scarce becomes even more scarce, and we're even less informed about what's happening. Did you want a last comment on?
I want to give another example of censorship. For example, the print media, they have a network of printing together because it's less expensive, and then even to send to give it to people inside Syria, for free, even together. And then the moderate armed group, they check if there is a photo of woman without, for example, hijab, and then they don't allow this print to be, inside the country. And then they force them, for example, even to any sign or any image there is women. And then sometimes, 2 times it happened, they burn or the newspaper and magazine that they try to distribute it inside the country. So it's another of censorship, not only even the content, but it's very surface of censorship. Like if you have a photo of the woman and then it's to the fire, which is, this is the moderate, that's what they call it, the moderate armed group.
Not a good situation. I don't want to hog the conversation, but I do want to ask one last question of each of you, and maybe you can briefly talk about this. I'm just curious to know how you view Western media coverage of Syria. I mean, given that Western journalists are no longer in Syria, it's just too dangerous. Yeah, how do you think they're covering it, and how could they be doing a better job? How could they be connecting with your networks better to access the stories? I mean, how can they be doing a better job of covering Syria? I'd like to, inform them so that we can start getting the stories we need to be hearing.
Yeah, actually, from my experience based in Jordan, I was contacted by many foreign journalists coming from Europe. They are not interested to cover the success stories of Syrian revolution, of Syrian people living inside Syria or in Jordan or in Lebanon. Usually what they want to cover, ISIS, the armed group, the victims of the war, and like they have this kind of specific topics that we need sad stories. We don't need the success stories, the bright image of Syrian refugees trying to integrate in the host communities.
Well, they might argue the majority of people are facing a sad situation. There are just a few bright stories. Maybe that's how they would respond. How would you respond to that argument?
Actually, because it's not all the time, it's a sad stories. Usually, we have the success stories in Jordan, in Lebanon, also in Syria, like the Syrian woman who's building this community centers, trying to be part of the local councils, to run for the election. It's like success story that we need to show it in the media, in the Western media, not only the victims.
Yes, I think the political elite need to hear these stories as well as general audiences, so they don't just write Syria off entirely. Caroline, would you like to comment?
I think it's, from day one, the regime of Bashar al-Assad, he used this technique that he dehumanized the mass so you don't recognize who's doing what. And he said, those bunch of people, Islamists, they don't know what they want to screw up the country, and that's it. And this is the same, thing going on. Same thing going on, yes, because we need more humanized story. We need to know those Syrians were not numbers. They're not numbers. There is real faces behind those numbers, real stories. So humanizing the conflict today is the most important part of it, because whenever you have humanized the story, you can't imagine the feedback you're getting on it. But whenever you said, now I can tell you that there is 500% killed in Deir Zor. Oh, sorry. Oh. But I can tell you one story about Hasna, the circumstances she lived after she was released from prison. And this is a story that might move someone, So humanizing humanizing Syrian is really important.
The Kurdish refugee boy who had died, and suddenly the whole world began.
Yeah,
to
because
care
it
about
was, because it was like easy. They saw him. They humanized the story,
I'm going to open the floor to questions. We have one in the back. If you could please introduce yourself, Cynthia, and I'll hand. Okay.
Hi, Cynthia Schneider from Georgetown University. Hi, Caroline. I want to share another really great success story. The fabulous Syrian women, refugees living in Jordan, who make up the cast of Syria, the Trojan Women, the play that we tried to bring to Georgetown, and the U.S. didn't give them any visas. Well, the UK is doing something right. They have granted them visas, and a week from today, they will be on tour in London, performing at the Young Vic, and they'll be touring for 3 weeks, culminating with a fantastic West End gala on July 24th. So anyone who's in London should definitely look into that. Then I have 2 quick questions. I'm sorry to be so dense, but when you say the armed groups are censoring, which armed groups? Is that the moderates? Is that the Asad? Who are these armed groups who are censoring you? And then secondly, I'm curious to know if you ever got any funding from USAID, which was very important in getting independent journalism started in Afghanistan, which is one of the success stories of Afghanistan. Or what U.S. sources, if any, have you gotten funding from?
When we talk about censoring from the moderate group, they are the one who are controlling the northern part of Syria, the one who are the U.S. government tried to support them several times, and they name it moderate. It's not the regime, because it's very clear they try to make them moderate, and they are our alliance to find solution in Syria, but that's what they are doing for the citizen. So it's not like winning the battle on the ground, but what you will left for the citizen after a while. And for us, they are not moderate.
For Suriali, the day we started the project, October 15th, 2012, we were blocked by the regime. Now, if you go to Google in Syria and you Google Suriali in Arabic and English, you can't get to the website. So that's why we had to create another website called Hadamu Radio. This is not a radio, so people with very light content, so people can get to the website. And that's why we have. And they block the stream, even for SoundCloud, you can't listen to it. So for the regime, we know the regime, we know how they think. They've been disinforming people for the past 4 years, so they want to keep doing that. For the other area, it's like armed group control area. We don't know them in person because, personally, I don't go in direct contact with them. It was through other Syrian groups who tried to build transmitters on the ground in order to broadcast. So we were sharing the airtime with other radio stations. For the U.S., at Suriali, we do have work. This is our 3rd year with National Endowment for Democracy. We do work with Freedom House. We work with Internews. But USAID, not yet. No.
Great. This woman in red, please. Pink.
Hi, my name is Dominique. I am an International Center for Journalists Fellow. I'll be traveling to Turkey in September, working with the Fuller Project for International Reporting. If you're not aware of it yet, I'd love to talk to you guys more after about it. Fuller Project is a niche-based organization trying to focus on women's rights, women's issues throughout the developing world and the developed world, whatever you mean by that one. So my question is, the story I'm going to be covering is looking at the education of Syrian youth within Turkey, especially in Istanbul. And I know that they're calling Istanbul the little Syria of Turkey. And I'm just really curious to know, what are your thoughts about furthering education and again furthering civil society for Syrian youth especially, and how is that? What does that look like to you guys as far as where you guys are on the ground? Just
like what would be good projects or ways to...
what are good projects or what are good things that maybe some success stories that are happening within Turkey?
I guess so far there's still lack of support for this kind of education for Syrian refugees, especially for the teenagers. There's a small and few organizations working on support education like Basma and Zaytuna in Lebanon and in Turkey in Gaziantep. Also, I guess the international organization and international community, they should increase the fund and scholarship for Syrian refugees in host countries like in Jordan and in Lebanon, because the higher education, it's so expensive for refugees to go and enroll in this in university or in schools.
Great. There's a question right here. Someday we'll have a bigger conference room.
Hi, I'm Masada Mikati. I'm with the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs. I was just wondering, as female journalists, and especially Milia, I know that you're in Jordan right now, how do you navigate the dangers by reporting on the ground and also the cultural norms? So for instance, if you're in a more conservative region or you're talking to more conservative people or wherever you are, whether you're in the States or in the Middle East, as a woman, people don't usually take you as seriously as they would if you were a man. So how do you navigate the dangers and those cultural norms there?
Like, I'm now in Jordan. I'm not reporting on daily or weekly basis. I'm just doing sometimes like a few articles. But like for journalists in Jordan, like the main issue and like struggle for right now that the work permission and the press card. It's kind of hard to have this work permission. And once the security or the government will coach you, it will be you will be deported back to Syria. So like it's also for them, it's kind of hard to report from the ground in Jordan. Yeah.
But is your question also about inside
Inside
Syria for
Syria?
I
women?
mean, honestly, anywhere. Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, anywhere.
I work as a reporter from Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan, and I have to hide my identity as a journalist all the time. And I have been in trouble with the Turkish army and Hezbollah in Lebanon, and even I have kicked out from Zaatari camp from one of the citizen, Jordanian, when he just met, she is a journalist. I mean, we are not even in the sense of like to take us as serious, but as a Syrian working in journalism and not in from your country, not in a place where they are really respect journalists in a general, it's hard. And then we have to hide. Actually, to be honest with you, I have seen it, now I am on the TV, but I will say it. Like several times I said, I'm not journalist, I'm activist. But activists do not know and ask. And then as activists, you are much more softer and much more acceptable from the people. Yeah, you
Really,
know?
then a journalist, there's a,
Yeah, like a scary thing.
interesting, there's a negativity toward journalists among
Yeah,
the people.
yeah.
Interesting, that's too bad. We have a question over here.
I'll project.
One second, no, because we are recording it, so thanks, appreciate it.
So I'm curious. You've all been sort of talking about, how restricted the work, your work and the work of your organizations inside Syria has become. Are you afraid at all that the values that you're promoting and the sort of networks that you're creating become networks and values of refuge and don't sort of translate eventually inside Syria? And there becomes this sort of dichotomy between what the work of journalists and even activists and these human rights principles that you're promoting don't never make it back into Syria.
Absolutely. It's a huge challenge for us as a network because we are promoting human rights, gender equality, and justice. And for the people in the region, they saw it as a very Western term. But we didn't actually take it from the West. Since we were in Syria, we are discussing this. And the people who are fighting for human rights in the area, they are minority. And then we are not scared, but we are concerned. And because of that, we continue, we insist to work with other partners. We are not only working among ourselves, our members, but we go, for example, to other initiatives and groups. So we are really believe in the other group who are working from inside and outside the country because they are much more closer to the people. We are, I will not say it as an elite, but people, they will look to us like that. And we accept this. So we have to be smart and to look with the other locals who are accept us. And then we keep ourselves updated because now it's changing very fast on the ground. And it's the area that's isolated, for example, from day to other day. And we are aware about this. And it's something we think about it every day. Like we have to be Syrian in a sense, like understanding the culture, but not people who are remembering Syria last time in 2011, 2012, or 14. After 5 years, people, they saw us like you are away from our culture. We are trying not to be. Probably Suryali has another.
I personally believe that we maybe won't live to see the results of the work we're doing. And I live with this fact, And I think every nation, there's people who paid the high price for the generations today to live the life they're living. So accepting this fact for me give me so much peace.
So it's a long-term investment in
of course,
Syria 50, 100 years from now that will be the beneficiary of this horrible conflict. Can we have a last question, please? And then I want everybody to have some time with our guests afterwards.
Behind you. I hate my voice. Hi, my name is James. I used to work for a website focused on Syria in Amman. And when I was there, I found that the one problem was you either had the problem of lack of information or far too much competing information from different websites. One claims this, one claims that. So the figure that you gave that it's gone from 350 media outlets to 50 to 80, I'm curious, has there been any combination or like strengthening of networks so that, you know, the picture is clear, or is it just getting, there might be less now, but they're more farther apart or less coordinated?
You mean network as for journalists or for media
For the outlets. For,
outlets in Jordan?
No, sorry,
in
inside
Syria.
Syria.
Inside
Yeah,
Syria.
yeah.
Yes.
So it shrunk significantly, and what's, yeah.
Actually, who are really working as and behavioring and practicing as a media, they are less than 40. They are still continue from. I mean, they're writing like we are monthly magazine, but you see them each 3 months. But the other one who are really continue working as they are like broadcasting every day, as Suriali, for example, they have their schedule and they continue work in a professional way. There are few of them, they are doing this. There is mapping actually from time to time, and it's a change. It's saying who is still working, who is just a stop, who is not yet really clear if they are want to continue as working as a media or not. And actually, like networking, people they don't like to, and this is now it's kind of phrase. It's the kind of a new idea. They want to unify the new media, and people they say, no, we have to be diverse. We have to be different. But we don't want to unify on one a strong radio station. It's not about be strong or weak. It's about creating the platform for people, and people they are not same. So the one who is working, for example, covering, for example, people who are outside, it's giving another aspect, another program, another ideas, the one who are really covering from Idlib, for example. So we need both. And then they're trying now like to unify and to have a 2 radio station, 1 TV, and let's have just 5, for example, print. But we have this revolution, first of all, for freedom of expression, and we don't to be unified again under one thing. And we have to take our time, because even in media, we have to take our time to figure out how we can manage it, if we manage it or not, and then we have our lesson to learn. Many people, they advise us to look to other conflict, post-conflict country to look how they manage it, but not necessary to work with us. We look to Bosnia, what happened, and they said there is similarity to Iraq as well, but still we have to go through our own experience. So it's not clear, but it's clear as well, because you can easily find who is still working. But online, it's a huge, actually. You never know who is much credible, professional, etc.
Yeah, that's a big challenge, knowing who's credible and professional, isn't that? A big
Yes,
part
it
of it is
is.
sort of deciphering what's news and what isn't coming out of Syria. Well, I'm afraid we're running out of time, and I just want to say, just sort of to carry on, just how, what respect I have for the Syrian journalists and media networks that continue to work to tell this very complicated, very difficult story, and in the process are trying to build what you're talking about, which is truly a democratic society where everybody can engage in the conversation and not just a few people. So really enormous respect for the ladies in the room, as well as everybody in Syria working on this project. Before we thank our guests, I just want to note that there is a questionnaire that's been put on your seats. As part of our grant for the Asfari Foundation, we have been asked to report on people's response to our programs. What's your takeaway? What have you learned? Do you feel more inspired and engaged? So please do take the time to fill it out and give it to Claire Ann. We have pens in the back if you don't have a pen in your purse, and hand it out to Claire Ann. Wave your hand, or Samir in the back. So please join me now in thanking once again our wonderful panelists, Rula, Milia, and Caroline. Thank you.